What's going on? How's everybody doing today? It's been a little while. We're finally back. Been super busy on some movie sets. I actually have another one this weekend, so if there are some delays in some videos, my apologies. But we are back for now. We're going to be trying to do some pretty frequently uploaded. I don't know if they're going to be daily uploads anymore for right now, but pretty frequent. Maybe daily. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, this video is for the Florida Gator fans because, man, Jon Sumrall, Phil Troutwin, the new staff just landed an absolute dog on the offensive line, and I want to come on here and talk about it. So, Maxwell Hiller, five-star interior offensive lineman out of Pennsylvania, has committed to the Florida Gators. So, this is massive. He's a consensus five-star. He's ranked number one interior offensive lineman in the entire country, top 5 to 10 overall player nationally. Florida went out and they beat out Alabama, they beat out Ohio State, beat out Tennessee, and you beat out some other top tier programs. I think Penn State was in the mix as well. This is a program defining win for a new staff that just came in and gets a massive commitment like this. Big part of this was Phil Troutwin. We'll get into that. But anyways, when you look at Maxwell Hiller's physical profile, he's 6'5", about 6'6". I know he's listed at 6'5", but I've seen some measures as 6'6", about 300 pounds. I'm seeing 305 now. He's an elite size for an interior offensive lineman. Already has, a college-ready frame. So I think his size is nothing to be worried about. I think he's ready to come in. He's ready to compete for reps immediately. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter immediately. I think this is the type of player that can come in and contribute in some way very quickly. Now, when you look at his strength and power, elite strength and power, dominates at the point of attack. He's known for pancaking multiple defenders on the exact same play. Go watch his high school tape. You'll see a lot of that. Generates serious drive in the run game, which is also going to be very big for Florida. And, this new offensive system, you're used to a little bit of a mixed match on the offensive side of the ball. I think you're going to see a lot of run game now. And Maxwell Hiller is going to fit perfectly into that if that is the scheme that they do decide to go with. But, he's not just strong, he's overwhelming at the high school level. So I think he's going to be a pretty quick transition period for Maxwell at the college level. Now, he has rare athleticism for his size. He moves like a smaller lineman, and like I say, he's 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds or more. Has high quality, or high enough ability, I would say, to pull in all types of different run schemes, climb to linebackers if needed. Even, he even had Division I basketball interest, if I'm not wrong. I've seen some stuff about that. I don't know how much truth is to that, but I have seen some posts go around saying that he did have some interest in Division I basketball. I'm not sure how high of level that was, but still Division I top level. That's saying something about his athleticism to be such a big guy. Now, like I said, he's already polished for his age. He's still developing, and he looks very good already. There's not many flaws. We'll get into some flaws later, but his ceiling is sky high. I think this is probably one of the better offensive linemen that Florida has ever been able to recruit in the entire program. I think Maxwell Hiller is an absolute dog. Like, he's one of my favorite players in this next class. Now, I've seen some coaches talk about his bend, his, explosion off the ball, his coachability. So that's also big when he is translating over to the college level and even at the high school level. Now, how does he fit at Florida? So we'll get into that. So, like I said, immediate impact. I'd say year 1 to year 2, you'll see him make some impacts. Florida may ease him in. He's physically ready. He could play guard. Most likely will play guard. I think he could potentially play center if you need him to play center, but I think he's more than likely going to be a guard and a very good guard at that. Now, under head coach Jon Sumrall, Florida's building a super physical, fast offense, and he fits that perfectly because he can anchor in the pass protection game as well. He can maul in the run game, like I have mentioned. He's athletic enough for more modern schemes, which I think you will see in this Florida offense going forward. And like I said, Phil Troutwin was the key to bringing him in my opinion. He previously did recruit him at Penn State. I'm a Penn State. I follow a lot of Penn State football. I'm a Penn State fan. I was big on Maxwell Hiller from watching him because Penn State had a lot of interest, and there was some mutual interest there. It kind of completely 360 once Phil Troutwin went over to Florida. When Jon Sumrall got hired, obviously hired Phil Troutman. And all that at Penn State, all the Penn State interest seemed to just die down, and it seemed to be Florida off the rip. So Phil Troutman was definitely the guy. Like, he had heavy interest in Penn State. Seemed like Penn State was maybe the top landing spot at the time. Second, Phil Troutman goes to Florida. Maxwell is big. Everything trends towards Florida. And like I said, Maxwell Hiller is from Pennsylvania. So Penn State made sense. And that's another reason I think Phil Troutman was massive on this. You know, he had those in-state ties at Penn State. So he obviously did get to meet Maxwell Hiller a lot in person. Probably did a lot of in-home visits. Probably did a lot of on-campus visits. Actually, I know they did a lot of on-campus visits at Penn State. But yeah, Phil Troutman, like I said, I mentioned this in a past video that I did about Florida. Phil Troutman's an absolutely incredible addition to the staff. I think that was one of the best hires that Jon Sumrall did make, and one of the more underrated hires that will fly under the radar. And this one shows it right here. This right here shows it. Like I said, he's the number 4 and 5 national player in the entire nation. Now, you know, Phil Troutman was known for developing NFL level offensive linemen. When you do look at like Olaf Ashnu and some other guys, he's developed at a very high level. And he had, like I said, strong personal relationship from being over at Penn State. And I think that Phil Troutman, like I said, I've mentioned it like 20 times already, but Phil Troutman was absolutely massive in this. He was a huge contributor and probably the actual number one reason. Now, when Maxwell did visit Florida, there was a lot of word going on. I know he did an interview. They asked him about it. He was like, Florida did everything right. Seemed like from then on it was Florida. It was Florida and it was no one else. Seemed like it was just Florida. Now, this Florida team has new energy under Jon Sumrall. Recruits are starting to notice this. There's a big culture shift already. You're starting to see it. You know, Florida's trending up. Maxwell Hiller bought in. I think a lot of other guys are about to buy in. You're going to see this recruitment ramp up for Florida. I think this new staff is going to recruit at an absolute elite level. And I think this is the closest that Florida's been to being back in a long time. I know there were some moments in Billy Napier's little coaching tenure where the recruitment started to go up. You're like, maybe Florida's back. Maybe the Gators are back. Jon Sumrall is a different type of coach. He brought in an incredible staff. Absolutely incredible staff. And you're starting to see it right now. You're starting to see it translate already. Now, will it translate over to the field? I think it's going to translate over to the field better than what it did with Billy Napier. If I'm a Florida fan, which I do love Florida, I live like under 2 hours away from the University of Florida, so I go to a lot of baseball games, go to a lot of football games as well. I have some family that grew up a Florida fan, so I have nothing but love for Florida. This is an exciting team. This is an exciting program. I think you're finally on the way up. And man, it's a pretty exciting time to be a Florida fan, if I had to say. So that would do it for this video. I just want to come on here and give you a little bit of a rundown on Maxwell Hiller, kind of give you some info on what to expect and where he does fit into this Florida program. So if you did enjoy this, I greatly appreciate it. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot. If you're a Florida fan, stay tuned. We have a lot more content coming. There's some new commits as well that we're going to break down on some videos. And yeah, if you're a college football fan in general as well, I greatly appreciate it if you consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me out a lot, like I did say. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.